Valentine's Day, 2013. A night meant for love turned into a nightmare that shocked the world. 4 gunshots, a locked bathroom door, a rising supermodel's life cut short at just 29 years old. This is the tragic story of Reeva Steenkamp, the woman who paid the ultimate price for loving the wrong man. The story of Reeva Steenkamp isn't just about her tragic death. It's about a bright, beautiful soul who had so much more to give to the world. Before we begin, I want you to remember Reeva not just as a victim, but as the incredible woman she was. A model, an actress, a campaigner for women's rights, and someone who believed in making the world a better place. Let's honor her memory by telling her story. Reeva Steenkamp was everything you'd want in a role model. Born in Cape Town, South Africa, she wasn't just another pretty face in the modeling world. She had substance, heart, and a mission. As a model, Reeva graced magazine covers and walked runways across the country. But she was so much more than her stunning looks. She was studying law, working toward becoming a lawyer. She wanted to help people, especially women who couldn't help themselves. Her friends described her as bubbly and warm, the kind of person who could light up any room she walked into. She had this amazing ability to make everyone feel special, like they were the only person in the world who mattered. Reeva was also a fierce advocate for women's rights. She spoke out against abuse and violence. She believed every woman deserved respect and safety. Little did anyone know, she would become a symbol of the very cause she fought for. On social media, she often shared inspirational messages. One of her last posts read, "What do you have up your sleeve for your life? You should make every day count. Happy things are coming your way." Tragically, happy things never came. In late 2012, Reeva started dating Oscar Pistorius, the famous Paralympic athlete known as the Blade Runner. To the outside world, they seemed like the perfect couple. He was a celebrated athlete who'd overcome incredible odds. She was a rising star with beauty and brains. But behind closed doors, things weren't as perfect as they appeared. Oscar Pistorius had earned worldwide fame as the first double amputee to compete in the Olympics. Born without fibula bones, he'd had both legs amputated below the knee as a baby, yet he refused to let that stop him. He became a world-class sprinter, breaking records and inspiring millions. But fame came with a dark side. People close to Oscar reported that he had serious anger issues. There were stories of him threatening people with guns, getting into fights at restaurants, and struggling to control his temper. The Golden Boy image was hiding a much darker reality. Reeva's friends later revealed that she had confided in them about Oscar's behavior. She spoke about his explosive temper and how controlling he could be. She was scared, but like many women in abusive relationships, she hoped things would get better. They had only been dating for a few months, but the relationship was already showing dangerous signs. February 14th, 2013, Valentine's Day. A day that should have been about love became a day of unimaginable tragedy. Reeva was staying at Oscar's luxury home in Pretoria, South Africa. It was supposed to be a quiet, romantic evening together. Instead, it became her last night alive. According to Oscar's version of events, he woke up in the middle of the night and heard noises coming from the bathroom. Thinking there was an intruder in his house, he grabbed his gun and fired 4 shots through the locked bathroom door. But Reeva was behind that door. 4 bullets, hip, arm, and head. The woman he claimed to love was dead. Oscar's story was that it was all a terrible mistake. He said he thought she was still in bed next to him. He claimed he was terrified and acted in self-defense. But the evidence told a different story. From the very beginning, Oscar's story had holes big enough to drive a truck through. First, the neighbors. Multiple people reported hearing shouting and screaming before the gunshots. This suggested there had been a violent argument, not a quiet night interrupted by an intruder. Second, Reeva's phone. She had been sending text messages right before she died. She was awake, she was alert, and she was clearly frightened of something or someone. Third, the bathroom door. Oscar fired 4 shots through a locked door without ever calling out to see who was inside. Who does that? If you think there's an intruder, don't you shout a warning first? Don't you call the police? The trajectory of the bullets showed that Reeva was standing or crouching when she was shot. She wasn't hiding or attacking. She was cowering in fear. But perhaps most damning of all were the reports from Reeva's friends and family. They revealed that she had been afraid of Oscar's temper. She had told them about previous arguments and how controlling he could be. This wasn't self-defense. This was the tragic end of an abusive relationship. The Oscar Pistorius trial became one of the most watched court cases in modern history. The whole world was watching as a beloved Olympic hero faced charges of murder. Oscar's defense team worked hard to paint him as a frightened man who made a terrible mistake. They brought up his disability, his fears about crime in South Africa, and his supposedly genuine remorse, but the prosecution had a different story to tell. They presented evidence of Oscar's violent history, his problems with anger management, and his pattern of controlling behavior. They showed that this wasn't an accident. It was the result of a domestic dispute that went horribly wrong. Oscar took the stand in his own defense. He cried, he broke down, he claimed it was all a terrible accident. But many people saw through the tears. His story kept changing, and his emotions seemed calculated rather than genuine. The physical evidence was clear. 4 shots fired in quick succession through a bathroom door. A young woman who died afraid and alone. A man who never bothered to check who he was shooting at. In September 2014, Judge Thokozile Masipa delivered her verdict. Oscar Pistorius was found guilty of culpable homicide, basically manslaughter, but not murder. The judge ruled that while Oscar had acted recklessly, there wasn't enough evidence to prove he intentionally murdered Reeva. He was sentenced to just 5 years in prison. The world was outraged. 5 years for taking the life of a beautiful, talented young woman? Many felt justice had not been served. But the fight wasn't over. In 2015, the Supreme Court of Appeal overturned the verdict. They found Oscar guilty of murder and increased his sentence to 6 years, later extended to 13 years and 5 months. Finally, there was some measure of justice for Reeva. While Oscar sits in prison, Reeva's legacy lives on. Her death sparked important conversations about domestic violence in South Africa and around the world. Her story became a warning about the danger signs of abusive relationships and the importance of taking women's fears seriously. Reeva's family, especially her parents Barry and June Steenkamp, have worked tirelessly to keep her memory alive. They've advocated for women's rights and spoken out against domestic violence. The Reeva Steenkamp Foundation was established to continue her work supporting women and children affected by abuse. Through this foundation, Reeva's voice continues to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Her friends remember her as someone who would have changed the world. She had plans to become a lawyer, to help people, to make a difference. All of that was stolen from her and from us in a moment of rage and violence. Her story reminds us that domestic violence doesn't discriminate. It can happen to anyone. But Reeva's legacy lives on in every woman who finds courage to leave an abusive relationship and in laws that protect victims. She paid the ultimate price, but her voice still echoes today. Let's honor her memory by continuing the fight for a world where every woman is safe and valued. Rest in peace, Reeva. Your light still shines. If you or someone you know needs help, reach out. Don't suffer in silence. Subscribe for more content and share how we can prevent tragedies like this.